I guess it's time to get to work here. Hey guys, Jake again here with Clackacraft, river boats, drift boats, jet boats, all the fun stuff we have here. For this video, I was going to explain to you guys a little bit how the jet pump works. A lot of you guys probably know, but some don't. Everybody kind of was calling me and ask, well, what's 60-40 mean? Because for our boats, we use a 60-40 for the Magnum jet pump. So it's actually a 60 horsepower power head on it. And if it was a prop motor, it'd be considered a 60. And with a jet pump, what happens is you lose some of that force, so you actually, horsepower is less. So it's a 60 if it's a prop, but it's a 40 jet. And this is actually a jet foot right here. I'm going to show you guys how to adjust one, shim one. This is actually a pretty good, well-used one. I had sit in my bucket of parts over here. See, this one's got probably a rock stuck in there and chewed up a little bit. So I'm going to show you guys how to clean this up a little bit. This one's got a pretty good groove in it, still usable. I might lose a little bit. What happened probably is down here in this bottom end, a rock maybe got pinched in there with the impeller at one time, and it, it's going around so fast it just made a big groove there. So this is actually a jet foot intake. So what happens, this is actually, as you're going upriver, the water's going to enter in this direction here and go through this grate. It's basically just a big vacuum. It's taking that water, sucking it in, and kicking it out. And so this is your foot, and then they give you these sleeves. So if you do damage like we've done on this one, or incidentally something came in here, you can actually replace these. I'm not sure offhand. I want to say they're probably around $100, $150 nowadays for a new sleeve, but you can also clean these up. It's not garbage by any means. It's just been well used there. What happens is this sleeve sits in here, so that way your foot doesn't get damaged by one impeller, and then your impeller actually, this is an impeller here, and you can, if you look at it, you can actually see it's kind of cone shaped. So what it's doing is it's going to go down inside this guy here and sitting here, basically just stay right off the sleeve. You're going to get downward just, I would say less than 1/8 of an inch adjustment. And I'm going to show you guys how to do adjustment as well on that. With these impellers, they come, once you get it on the shaft here, you're going to come with about, I think it's about 10 washers here, real thin shims or washers, whatever you're going to call them. And then there's a set nut on here that keeps those in place. And as time goes by and you do wear these down, you take those shims and you put them on the top. And what that's doing is, if you move the shim to the top, it's going to adjust that downward. And so you're going to get down, you don't want that thing hitting, but you're going to want to get it down just minimal, and we'll show you here a tolerance there on that. If you get too far, which, we do enough of these, you're going to make a mistake once in a while. On accident one time, we put the shims on the wrong side, went to start the boat. It didn't want to start. It was basically, seized almost, but we were able to take it off, put it back, and it was fine. But so all that adjustment stuff is, stuff you'll do, and we'll show you that. And again, this is basically the bottom of the actual pump itself, the jet pump. We're going to go ahead and go over there and show you guys the rest of the stuff, so stay tuned. This is a factory jet foot right here that comes on the pump, which is fine. This boat's so light, it doesn't really do damage to itself as far as if you did hit something. A lot of big jet boats, you'll hear guys breaking these. I've yet to see one break on these boats because, again, the Magnum powered with such a lightweight boat, it literally kind of bounce up off of things, which that's kind of the advantage of this boat, a little 4x4 on the river. But we still like these aftermarket. It's made out of a company out of Washington makes this one right here. We carry them in stock here. They're not cheap, but this is a polyurethane jet foot for the jet. Basically, it's taken this guy and made it out of polyurethane, so it's a little bit more damage resistant as far as how it works, and it's also got a little tougher grates on these as well. But more hardened steel on them. So it's just kind of a fun option. You don't need it necessarily. They've actually molded in these little intake fins, which we have those too that we can add to the side of these jet foots as well, just to help direct that water. That's another thing cool about this Magnum, to let you know real quick too, is we're basically trying to get as much water channeled into this jet foot as possible. So if you look at the bottom of our boat, it has a tunnel hole in it, and then it also has that, we call it induction plate, and what we're doing is we're channel that as much water in this factory foot as possible. So you'll hear boats go up the river, and you guys probably heard them if you're out fishing, and they're just popping away, wow, 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 because they're cavitating, they call that. And that's basically you're allowing air to get into this jet, so it doesn't have the thrust. It's not kicking water out to push the boat forward. Because that's what this is doing. It's going into the jet foot here. We're trying to keep as much water, and this being a flat bottom, such a shallow water boat, we're really trying to channel that water in here. And this boat's really successful that way. It doesn't have much cavitation. Get some weight in the front. Sometimes I'll have a little bit of that popping sound. I'll just slow the boat down a little bit. and it digs back in really good. And you can see the water's actually going into this jet, coming into here. That impeller's sucking the water up, kicking it out this thing, and right out directly out the jet pump right here. The water doesn't come out here. This is actually the exhaust right here. The water actually comes out around outside here, and this is basically what this is going to do is channel the water. It's full open forward right now, and right now this, if we adjust this, that's reverse. So that's actually reverse. What it's doing is taking that water and kicking it this direction. You got to snap a jet boat to really make it move right. And again, this is just a directional piece here that allows the boat to go forward or backwards for reverse. You know, with these jet pumps here, I've had times, well, just had it actually the other day. I don't know how it happened, but this screw actually came loose on mine. And actually, when I was going up the river, they put a Loctite in there, but I don't know how it happened, if we were messing around with something, but this screw actually came out, and I was going up a set of rapids, and this thing kicked itself into neutral. Neutral is kind of the in-between spot. Right there, it's in neutral, where you can see the water can go this way and go that way, and it's pretty good adjustment. Sometimes it'll go forward a little bit, but this actually came loose, so therefore it went into neutral going up a rapid, and that's what's cool about this boat. I was actually going up the rapid, got up to the top of it, and that thing just fell on its face, and it was basically in neutral at that point. So I wasn't going this way, and the water started taking me back down the rapid. So quick thinking, I have oars on this boat, so I jumped on the oars. Actually, it was on my boat, and rowed it back down like a drift boat, was able to go off the side of the river to assess what was going on with it. And I carry tools, really important to carry like tools in your boat, a basic ones, screwdrivers, pliers, and those type of things, and it saved my butt. So I wasn't able to put a screw in here. So what I actually did was actually pin this back and kept it in forward gear. By doing that, I'm still allowed to go up the river and go back down the river. Just got this basically out of the way. And so therefore I was able to strap it back like this. And that's what's cool about even having a couple zip ties. If you had to get this out of the way, you're still going to have that forward thrust and be able to get the river, get back to a safe spot. But again, that's what's cool about the Magnum, being able to row it. I was able to row it back down that rapid and get off the side of the river and check it out. So that's something to keep an eye on. It doesn't happen very often, but I do it so much, it's bound to happen, right? So that's kind of what I was wanting to show you on that there. But I'm going to go ahead and like I was talking about, shim this motor. This is a brand new motor, but I'm going to show you how to remove this foot and go through the process and show you what the shims look like, and washer shims, what do you want to call them, and how you can put them above the impeller to bring that impeller down to get your tolerance closer, because you want to get as close as possible. Therefore, that vacuum effect will really suck that water up and kick it out. Because if you start getting a wider gap in there, what happens is the water is going to slide through, and you're not going to get that suction like you need to kick that water out for thrust. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this. They have 6 little nuts on here. These are nylock nuts on these guys. You got to remove those in order to get this pump off. There's 7/16 on these guys. Real important. I like to use hand tools when I'm doing this stuff. Everybody wants to jump on the impact train. And what you can do with impacts and stuff, you can either over tighten stuff, spin stuff off, bolts are flying. I know it's kind of a pain. And with this particular foot too, you can get away with probably a couple of these with the ratchet, but I usually use an open end wrench, which takes a little longer. This back stuff, I can get up in here with a quarter with the wobbler and get some of these off. That's a little quarter wobbler on here, 7/16. Sorry, this is a working shop too, so everybody's got some boat pickups going out today. So bear with us there. We got a little background noise. I'm going to go ahead and just loosen these guys up. Again, hand tools are the way to go. I got that last screw off. These little guys are the keepers for this aftermarket jet foot here. Basically, it's this is polyurethane, so you need some kind of a metal support system to hold it in place there. The factory foot doesn't have that because it's metal, or it's aluminum, I should say. So yeah, I got that up. Basically I was able to use that ratchet with the wobbler on every one of these besides the one in the very back. I had to use a 7/16 open wrench here, which I got my hand right here. So I got those off to kind of keep my workspace tidy as possible here. So I've got screws flying everywhere. I'm gonna go ahead and you kind of got to shake these off. Sometimes I got to use a light, rubber mallet or something to kind of pop it off if it's the factory one, but it came off really good. You can see how nice and clean and new that one is there. Brand spanking new. There's my impeller. You can see the sleeve was just actually sat up in there. I can get it up in there, but it's easier to do when it's in the foot. But basically, this is sitting in here. You can get its cone shape. You can see how the impeller sat down there, and this is a brand new one. So, and you can look right here. you can see all, well, I can't see because I have my glasses on, but you can see all the washers in there. Again, I think there's about, if I remember right, 10 of them in there. And this is a nut here, and you can see there's actually a keeper on here. And how you get this is, you know, they say they're one-time use, but you probably use it a couple times. Just want to make sure that you're not seeing any cracking or breakage on these things. I think a couple of times you could bend these back out, and it's not going to hurt them any. I'll get a flathead screwdriver and I'll tap it up, and then I'll be able to get this nut. Those keep this in place because there's actually a groove on one side of this stud right here, and what that is, it allows that washer to stay in place and it doesn't move it, the keeper washer. And there's also, that's a spot for when you'll see in here, there's actually a cotter key in there too. Well, not a cotter key, but a key in there, a key way to keep that impeller in place. So I'm gonna go and get my tools I need to knock that out. So I'm gonna just get a light tap on that. You can see that actually, not gonna try to beat it up too bad, but if I get it up a little bit, I might be able to, but I think use this big screwdriver to get it the rest of the way. Not to be too flat with it, just get it back a little bit there. And there's one on the back side too, there's 2 of them. Okay, got that there. All right, so again, clean workspace, because you don't want to just sit there and pull this off because you're going to lose everything. You can kind of memorize what order these are in here too. This is kind of me just wanting to turn the motor here, so what I do is take my hammer here and kind of put it in there to keep it from turning. And you can see once I stop that, just kind of turn over the motor. I'm able to loosen that in there. All right, I'm gonna take this brass nut off. I'm gonna hold all this stuff so it doesn't go crashing down over the floor. And you can see here, got this guy off, this keeper here. You see how it's got this little cutout here, because again on this drive shaft, there's a little flat spot here. And so that's what keeps that nut from spinning, is that flat spot right there. And then these ears come down over the nut. Well, not the nut from spinning, but this keeper will keep the nut from spinning because it's locked in place there. So I'm gonna cut that guy off. And again, you kind of see what direction it goes because I've used it before. It's gonna bend downward on that. See how it's got the flat spots there. And I'm gonna pop this guy down. This is kind of like it's like a little dish or a plate. You can see which direction it goes up, kind of holds everything in place there. So it's one way guy, but it's going to hold all this stuff. And then you got these little guys in here. These are just dampeners, I think, kind of a polyurethane dampener for the impeller itself. And we'll pop those off the way there. And then here are all our little shims. You can see you could really wear that sleeve down. And what these guys do, this one's a brand new motor, so I don't think it's going to need any adjustment. But over time, you might take, let's say, one of these shims, and it's going to make a noticeable difference if your jet pump is older, and adjust these, and you're going to put them in there. And basically, when you put them in there, you could put this all back together, look in there and see your tolerance here on this guy, where it's at. I mean, you want to get as close as possible without rubbing on it. Again, if you had an older boat and you feel like, God, this jet pump used to be really powerful and lost a lot of power, it's most likely, over time, the impeller and maybe the sleeve both have wore down a little bit from gravel and sand and grit. And those types of thing, or if you got a rock in there. But usually over time, if you haven't been the person that uses it all the time in shallow water and got rocks in there, it's going to be a matter of a light adjustment. So start small, work your way up. If you looked up there and you've seen, wow, there's like 3/8 gap in there, which that'd be crazy if there was, but you might go in here and take a couple of these shims and put them on the top. So I'm going to pop them off for now though, and take the impeller off and kind of show you the inner workings of the impeller. But there's all the sleeves. Let's see how many sleeves. I'm kind of curious. Looks like there is basically 7, 8 maybe of them there. So shims there. And then this is my impeller. Sometimes these can be fun to pull off, so bear with me here. Let's see if I can get it loose here. Okay. So what I did is I put this nut back on and create a little, tension on this and just tapping it, so I'm pulling at the same time, and you can see it worked its way down because it's pretty stuck on there. So by doing that, I'm not banging on the threads, I'm banging on this nut a little bit. And be careful doing this, obviously. You don't want to be pounding away on it. I'm just doing it enough to kind of create a little tap there to get this thing to back off. You can actually see it moving. There it is. Pop loose. Not hitting it hard, just real soft there, enough to get that thing kind of break loose. And when you see this here, there's actually a key on the back here against this flat, so that keeps the impeller from just, the shaft not just sitting there spinning, it grabbing the impeller there that way. And it's probably going to fall out. That's actually right there, it stayed in there. And there's the drive shaft here, and up in there, this is a big bearing right here, and that's what we lubricate on the side here, and we'll show you that as well. It's lubricating the bearing inside of this, and that's what keeps the impeller all, you know, right position and stuff. But you can look down there now, see this little plastic sleeve in here, and then there's an actual keyway in there. It's right there, and that's what rests against the side of this shaft here and keeps that impeller from, this keeps it flat there, and then you can see this is grabbing the impeller inside there. This can be tricky to get these back together sometimes, so bear with me on that, but there you go. You know, you can look in here now and you can see a brand new impeller. I mean, that would be too close right there. And I didn't look it up, and that's bad in my video exactly what the tolerance wants to be, but I want that thing to be right there as far as the gap in there. I mean, you obviously don't want it there because you're going to seize it up, you know, basically maybe a couple millimeters or something in there, but I want to keep that thing as close as possible so that way there's no water sliding through. Because if it's, you know, if you look up there and you can see you know, I've seen it before with the older jet pumps. I mean, it can have that big a gap. I bet you're going to lose, I bet you could lose up to half your power, your motor. It's going to feel like you're not going anywhere when you get up on step. And I have adjusted these for people and got, I mean, 100% of their power back. If you're looking up there and you're seeing, you know, a big gap in there, you're going to want to definitely shim your impeller. You can see that if you shimmed it, you're going to, as you shim, you take that washer from the shim, or the washer, I call it, either way, from the front side and move it to the back. What it's going to do is it's going to push this forward, you know, this direction, I say towards me, down into that cone, and you can see once you get that thing adjusted right, it's just going to be perfect. And there, you know, there. But again, this is a brand new motor, so wish I had an older boat to show somebody. But if you have those problems, you definitely want to shim your motor. So that's when you would go up here and basically start putting these guys, you know, above them, get them up here, and that's going to be your shim there. And so you're going to move this direction. Again, this is a brand new motor, so we're not going to do that. Just to take it apart to show you guys here. Front side here is my keyway there. And this is always fun. Get it in here. There we go. See, I got that key in there, pushing it up. And as long as you get it in there, it can be higher on, it can be lower. You don't want to push it all the way through so it's up there, but you're going to see it work it way back up in there. See you, Jim. Thank you. Yeah. Have a good day. Customer getting his new boat out there. All right. So again, this is a brand new jet pump. So we're going to go ahead and reassemble all these washers on the bottom. Oh, make sure basically do nothing at this point. They're just sitting there for you when you need to adjust your pump. Got the washers back in there. And that's one thing too, if you had an older boat, it may have been adjusted before. So when you go to take this impeller off, there may already be some shims up there, especially if you maybe bought the boat used and somebody else has been in there playing around with stuff. So you want to be careful when you slide this off that you don't lose all your washers, because then you may already have had some adjustment there. Or maybe you're to the point where this thing's so worn out, you go to look in here and these sleeves are already sitting on top. At that point, you probably want to buy a new impeller and a new sleeve. Just get it ordered through Outboard Jet there, and you get that coming. So there's a little cup washer there. I'm going to call it a cup washer. It's probably a fancier name for it, but there's my keeper for my nut. Keep my nut from spinning. So you want to hopefully get this guy on. There you go. And my little brass nut here. And basically, we're going to come back and tighten this. This nut is just going to barely sit off this top of this stud here. And you're not going to over tighten it, you know, because like, what's the torque on that? It's not really a torque thing. It's going to be, you're going to go around until, you know, you basically hand tighten it. You know, if you could think you get one more out of it, which I think I can, I want a little bit more there. And that's pretty much it right there. I don't know if I can get one more out of it just for sake. Maybe a little bit with that. See, I'm trying to turn the motor over, so it's probably a good spot right there. Got a little bit more out of it. I'd guess probably 25 pounds of pressure right there to get that around. And then I'm going to go over here And it looks pretty good there. I'm gonna tap these back down. This can kind of be tricky a little bit, but I'm just gonna go in here. See, I got that down. Probably just do it like that with the hand too. There you go. So got that back on there. It's not gonna allow that nut to, I tap it with my ball peen hammer here. And this one on the back side's a little trickier to get at. So I'm just gonna use a little manual force here on it. Again, I got it kind of sitting there. Got that there, looks good. It's not, you know, it's not old, so it's not cracked or nothing. You want to inspect that to make sure you're not having one of those that failing on you. It'd be disastrous. Back together. Basically a pretty simple unit here. You can see there's the new sleeve here. And get this back on there. And we're gonna look up in there and see here, I got my light. You guys can see it on, but you can see that's pretty dang good there. You know, the tolerance as far as where that's at. Could a person maybe put a shim in there? Maybe, but I don't think so. That looks pretty good. And once I tighten this up, it's probably even gonna push that up there a little bit more once I get the screws back on with that jet foot. And again, your jet foot, it's directional. Funny enough, this happened to people before. They clean this up, put this in. Can't make fun of them, but it's happened before. You know, they always got their buddy helping them out, and guess what? They did that, and it's a very common mistake, believe it or not. Guess what? That's the wrong direction. Looked at it before, even had a mechanic one time do it in a hurry, just put it on the wrong way, and tighten it down. Granted, probably went to lunch, came back and went, oh, messed up. But you don't want to do that because you're not going to go nowhere. So you definitely want to make sure you put this on right. Sorry, I'm laughing about that because it's probably something I could make a mistake doing too. So get this on here. Be careful, don't hammer it too much. You got studs there, and again, directional. Let's see. That's the front of the boat. It's catching water. It's slanted like that. So you get that back on there. These rubber ones sometimes need a little extra love to them. And there's our keepers here on these guys. These are pretty easy. There's actually a notch on these aftermarket ones that tells you. I mean, I suppose a person could put them on like that, ain't gonna hurt nothing, but they want you to put one to the back and one to the front by them having that little divot there, so it reminds you which way to go. And then you can come in here with your little 7/16 nylocks. Check them, make sure you know they're nylocks. If they look like they've been beat up, you could replace them. They can wear out, nylocks over time. And we're gonna kind of hand tighten all this stuff down, get ready to go, and we're gonna be back in business. The big thing with these is kind of balance it out, meaning you're gonna bounce around a little bit. We're just gonna go in here. I'm just gonna kind of just enough to tighten it there. All right, another customer here getting their goodies there. So I'm kind of bouncing back and forth. A little tight there, a little tight there. Not overdoing it. Probably barely putting 7 pounds of pressure on that right now. I'm gonna put this other one on real quick. So basically they're nylocks. I'm kind of bouncing around. I can see that they're all there. I'm just gonna probably put, you know, I wrench a lot on stuff, and I'm probably gonna put about 20 pounds on each one of these, if that. I'm also gonna show you here in a few too how to take an older impeller, and we'll go ahead and we'll take that impeller and we'll sharpen those front edges. The older one I had over there actually had some dings in it from sand and gravel and grit, and we're gonna go through and do that too. So go from there. So I got this impeller here. I went ahead and put a clamp on the workbench, you know, trying to be safe here. You want to clamp it down because I'm going to use this slap disc here on my grinder here. It's actually got a little piece of sandpaper, it's 36 grit. They're really handy for cleaning up steel and whatnot before you're maybe getting ready to weld something. You can get this into your hardware store. This particular one's 36 grit. This is a 4.5 inch grinder right here. So got my grinder here, got this thing kind of fastened down. Sometimes I'll take this off, maybe hold it a little bit, but you know, do as I say, not as I do. I got the clamp here for safety here. I got my glasses on, or if you don't have glasses, get your safety glasses on. It's going to throw a little bit of debris here. Make sure you're in an environment where you don't have chemicals or something flammable around too, because you're going to create a little bit of sparks here on this stuff. But I'm just going to come in here. It's kind of tough. It's not the easiest. I'm going to work it as best I can to get in here. If I had to get in here with the, I'll show you too a file. I have a file here too. I can get on the back side if I can't get to the little spot. These don't come perfectly sharp by any means, but I'm going to do my best to make them pretty darn sharp. And there's guys will take brand new ones and come in here and grind them and get them really super sharp, so that way they're cutting the water good. Basically, I'm just going to clean them up enough to make them work a little better. So, see, I'm just going to kind of. Yeah, it's already doing that there. Looking at it, looks pretty good. You know, if I can get in here on the back side of this a little bit too, as far back as I can on my grinder. If I have to get back in here with the file, basically I'm just trying to get the 3/4 of the way out this pellet here, but you can go back a little bit too in there, so it's not completely sharp edge. Yeah, looks pretty good right there. I mean, you could call it right there. Come around to the next one here. Good old hand tool file out here. Just using a basic file here, and I can actually get in there and work the back side of this stuff a little bit too. See, there's some burrs in there, but it doesn't hurt to get in there. Just clean it up enough to. You can actually see it doesn't take much. It's already knocked some of those high points down. See it in there. And you have to do this perfect, just enough to kind of, again, I need those high points off. The outside of these can get stuff on them too sometimes. You know, get at the impeller and a rock cut stuff. Sometimes the aluminum will actually fuse to itself here from the impeller side, and you'll get some high points on those. This one actually looks pretty dang good, but if you do see something like, there's a spot right here, you can kind of see a little bit of a high point there. You know, you just gently come in here with the file. You don't want to mess with this too much. You're going to keep the best you can, but if you look down at that, you'll see any of those high points. And again, this looks pretty good. Be careful, this can be sharp too. Sharpening your impeller. This is aluminum impeller too, by the way. They do make these in stainless. You've heard people talk about 4-blade stainless. There's a 3-blade stainless they sell for these guys too. Stainless, I guess, is, they say, a little harder than the aluminum, but basically they're doing the same thing. There you go. All right, I just showed you that impeller. This is the sleeve. This is a bruiser sleeve here, but is it still usable? Yes. I got to get in here with a Dremel type tool, or there's all kinds of different sanding tools to do it. But basically, I'm just feeling it gently. Again, you can get some high points in here, some sharp stuff if it kind of fuses, you know, some aluminum to it. But good old fashioned, just with your hand and sandpaper, take the time to do this. May help this too. You know, it might take you a half an hour or something, but you can work it this way, but basically you want to keep this pretty even. You don't want to be sitting there grinding on a spot, because then all of a sudden you got a low spot here, a high spot over here, and then it's going to be really hard for you to adjust your impeller itself. So again, this one's a bruiser, but I'm just, for sake of the video, I'm showing you guys how I could sit here. This is some heavy grit, 80 grit here, but just work it out. Again, if you had a little fancier sanding tool, you could do that, but you don't want to be having this spot be low over here than here, because it's basically going to screw it up. You want to kind of keep it pretty consistent, even all the way around this thing, so that way you don't have a low spot on the left side and a high spot on the right side, because it ain't going to do you any good. And you keep everything there. You can see, just kind of cleaned it up a little bit. You can see it's doing a little bit of help there. So if I really worked it, this one's got a really rowdy spot right here, but again, it's still usable. So I could clean this up. I bet if I spent 20 minutes on this, kind of sanding it, cleaning it up, it would actually look like almost new. Besides, there is a low spot in here where probably a rock or something got stuck there. And it's still usable, because it's still going to work off this whole portion of the sleeve. And, you know, down here is pretty smooth too. But again, like Justin's here helping me today, he said, probably best bet if you got a bruiser this bad, just order a new one. But if you wanted to clean it up a little bit and still use your boat while you're waiting for your new one to come, it's usable. Put it back on. Again, it takes about 10 minutes to disassemble this the foot to get it off to replace the sleeve. So there we go. You guys are dialed now. I hope you guys liked the video. You know, I'm trying to do more of this stuff, showing you. I may not use all the perfect terms on all this stuff, but I'm pretty knowledgeable with this kind of things. And again, you can reach out to Clackacraft, or you can reach out to me even directly, jake@clackacraft.com. I'm more than happy to help you out if I can. You know, if it's some big project on your personal jet boat, I don't know if I want to get too tied up with it, but I'll be there to help you out and maybe some suggestions. I'm here to help everybody out. So Clackacraft does. And again, thanks for watching our video. Please subscribe, because when we come out with some more stuff, you guys got any ideas, hit me up, call me direct at the shop here or in Clackamas, or again, email me. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts and ideas, and thanks for watching the videos.